Hello and welcome to TIE Silicon Valley's My Story program. We have this every month where one of our charter members who founded this program brings new speakers, inspiring speakers, and entrepreneurs who are great successes and share their success stories with you. TIE, as you know, is a worldwide organization, and Silicon Valley is the founding chapter for TIE. We started here in the Valley 30 years ago with the mission of fostering entrepreneurship. So pretty much everything that we do, all the programs that we bring to you are all around fostering entrepreneurship. As you can see in the background, we are focused on providing education programs through our boot camps, mini MBAs, and coming up very soon will be the Pitch 50 as part of TIECon Silicon Valley, which is going to be from May 3rd to May 5th. For the first time after 3 years of being online, we will be there in person. Besides having educational programs on the program day at TIECon, we will also have our Pitch 50 contest, and on a regular basis, our TIE Silicon Valley Angels are very active in bringing startups, mentoring them, as well as helping them with funding. We have a large network of mentors across our charter member community, and TIE is all about networking, and it is my commitment to make sure that every program that we bring to our charter members is a learning and fun experience. In addition, we provide incubation opportunities for many of our startups. So with that background of TIE, Silicon Valley, and our commitment, remember the upcoming events now are going to be TIE Globe, coming up shortly with two incredible women to mark the beginning and the end of TIE Women's Year. And in addition, we will also be prepping for TIECon, our annual in-person event. So there will be a CM kickoff on the 30th of May. So please do register for that. And I look forward to seeing all of you registering at the TIECon conference in person. We have some great content and some great speakers. So with that, I will hand it over to Naveen Bish to help us learn more about Sumedh Thakar. Over to you, Naveen.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. Thank you so much for talking about TIE. Good evening and morning to folks if you're joining from other parts of the world. Many times we have folks from India and other parts also joining in. And good evening to folks who are here. So as you all know, so one of the couple of housekeeping items, so please write down your Q&A, your questions for the Q&A part of this this event today in the Q&A section, so we can try to address all of them. And basically, so just so we'll try to make sure we can get them addressed by our speaker. So as you all know, there are cyber attackers, that you hear of all these cyber attacks every day, and they're very creative, fast, and increasingly more malicious. And in the age of perimeter-less network, there are no longer rigid walls to keep the attackers out. And also digital transformation has fundamentally altered how companies function and provide value to customers. So how can in light of this, how can an organization become a leading cybersecurity player, take on its own digital transformation, and help other organizations secure their digital journeys? This is what Sumedh Thakar, our amazing speaker, who has done by transforming Qualys, a publicly traded company on NASDAQ, with a SaaS-based platform for digital security that helps organizations with digital transformation by ensuring that their systems are effectively protected from intruders. And Qualys Cloud Platform and its integrated apps help businesses simplify not only their security operations, lower the cost of compliance by delivering critical security intelligence on demand and automating the full spectrum of auditing, compliance, and protection for iSystems and web apps. And so today they have over 10,000 of subscription customers. Currently, Sumedh is president and CEO. He leads the company's vision and strategic direction. He joined Qualys in 2003, so almost 20 years now, I guess, in engineering, and grew within the company, taking various leadership roles and became Chief Product Officer in 2014, overseeing all things product engineering, development, product development, cloud ops, DevOps, and customer support. And he's the driving force behind expanding the platform from vulnerability management to broader areas of security and compliance. And prior to that, he worked at Intact, a cloud-based financial and accounting software company. He holds a bachelor's degree in computer engineering with distinction from University of Pune. With that, I would like to invite and hand it over to Sumedh to share his exciting, colorful, and amazing entrepreneurial and professional journey with us this evening. So let's give him a big round of applause. And with that, Sumedh, to you.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you so much for inviting me, and Anita for that welcome. It's been, I really feel this is a privilege to be out here and have the opportunity to talk to all of you. I think I'm a little bit different probably from a lot of the entrepreneurs you've had on the show. As Naveen mentioned, I've been at Qualys for 20 years, and my journey is quite different from many of the Silicon Valley folks who have been maybe starting new companies every 5 years or so. I've actually started at Qualys 20 years ago as a software engineer, one of the first software engineers to join here. And then over the last 20 years, I've done all kinds of different roles in the company. And today I have the privilege of leading Qualys as a global leader in security, and just had an incredible, amazing journey through this period. And so when I met Naveen, he was kind enough to invite me to share that with you. He did ask me to put together a couple slides. I'm not a big slide person, but I think I'll start off by maybe giving a quick overview, a little bit of my background, and then just a little bit of the early part of the journey. But I'm looking forward to the questions that everybody has. And again, I'm not a big preacher, so to say. So I'm just going to narrate some of the things that incidences that have happened through my life that I think really shaped my thinking and shaped my future and helped me kind of get where I am. And I really feel that it's a great opportunity for me to share that with you. And so my journey began in Pune. I was born and brought up out in Pune, which most of you know as part of India. And I had a very uneventful childhood, though my parents probably won't agree with me on that one, because I was always getting in trouble, and not for the right reasons in getting the attention. So I did my schooling at Karnataka High School in Pune, and then I went on to do my bachelor's in computer engineering at Vishwakarma Institute of Technology, and it was really interesting. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about, and what kind of lessons I wanted to talk about that I have learned through the period. And I didn't start off back in school or in college with the aim or a goal that I want to become the CEO of a company or anything like that. I think when I look back at many things that have happened that got me here, a lot of them seem accidental. And then I was like, I'm not sure that's the message I want to give, that things are accidents in life. But I think if I look back, the reality is that it's really comes down to it's not so much that you can really plan exactly what you want to do, but it is about things that happen to you and around you. Are you able to see the opportunities in those things, and are you able to grab that opportunity in the moment of time and be able to make something useful out of that? And if I look back along the way, every step of the way, I felt like I actually wanted to do something different, and then ended up doing something different when I saw the opportunity. And I think that was pretty valid and true when I started off early days, wanting to make a decision on that I wanted to get into architecture. And I was good at drawing and painting, and so it was very logical for me to go into an area where it was about architecture or drawing or something related to arts. And of course, back in the day, my dad and my parents were not so happy about that, and they really wanted me to reconsider. And so I talked to my uncle, and he said, look, you could get into engineering, and that's engineering is now being used, and computers are being used to generate art, and that might be a right way to get into doing arts, but go in the modern day art. And I don't know what kind of selling job they did on me, but definitely did good marketing. And so I ended up making the decision at that time that I think I wanted to do computer engineering, really to focus on getting into graphics and animation and some of those areas. And that's really how I got into. I rejected the admission that I had gotten in architecture, and I ended up actually picking it up for computer engineering, and ended up being in Vishwakarma Institute of Technology, which is out there in Pune, doing my 4 years of computer science. And I graduated right about the time when Y2K was actually pretty popular. And so it was an interesting journey. Again, companies were hiring new graduates from during campus interviews, and they were all being put on Y2K roles for COBOL programming and on mainframes back at Putney. So I started my journey at Putney in India. And sometimes some mistakes that you make end up bringing you good luck. I actually ended up being late on my first day in the office, and so I missed the batch that they were pulling for COBOL programming. And so I was left there by myself. And so some other project manager saw me and grabbed me and pulled me into their group, which was doing Linux programming for airlines. And that ended up actually becoming a pretty exciting opportunity for me to learn how airlines do ticketing and things, which was obviously interesting because I never in my life actually taken a plane. And so getting into and understanding how the airline booking backend works and how they price tickets, etc., was quite interesting for me. But it just ended up happening because on that day I ended up being late for the batch that they were training for COBOL, and ended up in a completely different and quite exciting field. And so after a couple of years in Putney, they had a on-site coordinator, as they used to call, who was in Minnesota. Ended up actually quitting that job, and my manager called me, said, hey, you have to be there in Minnesota in 3 days. And I'd never heard of Minnesota, and so it was really interesting to go to a place that I had never seen or heard before. And so when they called, I was having a very comfortable life at home in Pune. I was living with my parents, as we all do at that time. And all the money I was getting from my salary from Putney was pocket money. And so I was just enjoying it. And so I was quite kind of reluctant. And but my dad was very much about, hey, this is a great way to get experience in different places, different locations, and different industry. And so he kind of pushed me into getting into to taking up that opportunity, which again, I was initially reluctant to do that. But after that conversation really helped me kind of see that, hey, I got to go and be out of my comfort zone into some new place that I've never seen before. And, sometimes you never know, many times you never know what you're signing up for. And so getting out of Pune, which had, I think, like 35 degrees Celsius weather, 40 degrees Celsius weather, and landing in Minnesota after 24 hours with negative 30-degree temperature was a huge cultural shock. And you sign up for getting into the unknown and learning. I think that was a big cultural shock for me, as did most of us who came to the US. But that was even more because the learning to walk and drive in the snow and walking to the office on a frozen lake every day was definitely not the kind of commute that you would do. Now out here in the Bay Area, it's crazy weather today, but generally we have a sunny California and great weather. But Minnesota was quite an experience for me, because never had an experience where if you forget to wear your gloves, your hands are going to freeze within 5 minutes. And so after doing a couple of years, it was a really great experience at the time to learn how airlines actually price tickets. And I think one of the things that in every job, I had the opportunity to really learn something really different from a different business. And so today, when you're sitting next to somebody on a plane, it's the seat right next to you, but they may have paid twice as much as you have for almost the same ticket, same type of seat. And you got to wonder how that actually happens. And so I learned a lot through that process about how opportunity, how airlines use the opportunity to maximize money, and because you're late in booking your ticket, how they raise the prices and how they create buckets. And so through that experience, I learned quite a bit to understand how you can optimize a given inventory and how you can price. So that was kind of my first lesson in learning how pricing works and how you can cater to demand and how you can change your pricing based on demand, as the airlines do based on when you book. And so you end up essentially paying kind of the same, paying a lot more for the same kind of a seat many times. And so while that was exciting, after a couple of winters in Minnesota, I thought it was a little torturous when there was really not much to do outside of the summer months. And in summer, we're mostly spending the time in the Mall of America. So during summer, when during winter, the only thing you could do was go ice fishing. And having come from India, that was quite a bit of a shock, because in India, fishing is not a sport, or there's no magazine for fishing. And so fishing is when you go fishing when you don't have money for food. So you get a stick and a thread and a worm, and you go fishing. So that was really interesting for me to this whole concept of fishing. And then going and making a hole on a frozen lake and sitting there all day was a little too much. And so at that time, I made the conscious decision to say, I can't do this. I really need to go to and do something different. And so I moved back to India. But around the same time, my cousin who was in California told me that, hey, this is a great place. It's the e-commerce boom was happening, and this was about 2000. And so at the time, I decided to move to San Jose and be part of this whole startup journey, which was very new at the time. And so I joined a startup. Very exciting time at the time for startups. Everybody was doing a startup, everybody was joining a startup, going IPO, etc. However, in 2000, pretty much within a few months after joining, the company went bust, and they laid off a bunch of people. And so, which was a big shock. First time, especially coming from that background where education and job is sort of considered so important, to get laid off was a big shock and shame in some ways. How do you tell your parents and things like that? And then kind of learned that the economy was going down, the e-commerce bubble had burst, and so a lot of people were getting laid off, etc. So I ended up joining another company, which was a startup, and for a couple of years worked with them, and they were into this concept of using accounting, QuickBooks type of a software, but running it on the internet. And I'm deliberate about those words because the word SaaS at the time did not exist, but this company had this idea that you can run accounting software on a server that was hosted in a data center on the internet, and then from there you can provide this concept of on-demand software or application service provider, as they were called back in the day. And I thought that was pretty revolutionary, and learned a lot about that. And so I ended up joining them as a startup, but in a couple of years they ran out of funding, and I again got laid off. And now this time it was like, okay, first time maybe it was the economy, but it happens to you 2 times, it must be you. That's what I was thinking, that it must be me, because of which I'm getting laid off all the time. And so it was a great example of sometimes you could do everything right, but things may not happen the way you want them to. And many times you can make all kinds of plans, but they just don't work out in the way that you wanted. And so I was at the time I was doing PHP and Oracle. And so And there were not that many companies that were doing PHP because the whole SaaS thing had not quite started yet. I ended up applying for a bunch of places for jobs, and this company called Qualys at the time had just started operating in California. They had moved. They were originally founded in France, and they were doing something around cybersecurity. But they gave me a call. I randomly sent the resume to jobs@qualys.com, and somebody called me saying, "Hey, you have the exact profile the way we want it. So can you come join us?" And during I went for the interview, and in fact, one of my other friends who was in the company that I got laid off from, and he had not gotten laid off. He had also applied in the same company, but I was able to go to the interview first because I didn't have a job, and he had to wait for Friday to go because he had a job. And so what ended up happening is that I went for the interview and I got the job. And even though he had referred me to this position, because he went on a Friday, by the time they'd already selected me. And so unfortunate, for him, but sometimes again, things work out in ways that you had never planned for. And so I ended up taking the job. And truth be told, at that time, cyber was not big, and I was really unsure about if this is what I want to do. And I actually, in fact, I was in a way sure that this is not what I wanted to do. So at the time I was interviewing other companies, and I ended up actually taking a job at, well, not taking up a job, I actually ended up getting selected. So 1 year after I had joined Qualys, I ended up getting selected at Yahoo, which at the time was my dream company, as was for everybody else. And they offered me a job. Unfortunately, the job that they had offered was more of a front-end engineer to work on the yahoo.com front page. And I had always worked on the back-end side of systems, and so I wasn't quite excited. And so I made a decision at that time with a very heavy heart, and I told my wife I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my life by rejecting that offer from Yahoo and not joining them, and then continuing with Qualys. And I think reflecting back, like on many other things, that decision at the time, made a big difference, because I'm not sure where I would have ended up if I had gone with Yahoo as a software engineer at that time, versus the incredible journey that I had the opportunity to have when I came to Qualys. And so sticking with Qualys at that time, cybersecurity was not very hot at the time. People were just scanning their devices for vulnerabilities maybe 1 or 2 times a year, and it wasn't really big at the time. But as more and more infrastructure development started happening, everybody started moving more towards IT. It started picking up a little bit, but still not as gangbusters as we have it today. And around that time, internet was really starting to take hold for your day-to-day consumer things. And I really figured out the importance of the future of cyber when at the time my dad had just started, internet banking had just come on, and I was trying to get him on to internet banking. And he was not open to that. He refused to do that. He would go to the bank and stand in line to take the money and stuff like that. And I would ask him why, and he was always like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident about using a password. And what if somebody steals my password and stuff like that. And that's really when it dawned on me how incredibly valuable cybersecurity was going to be, because we were entering this future where everything was going to be internet enabled. But if the adoption of those technologies did not happen, because the trust in these digital systems was low, then the adoption, if that doesn't happen, then we're not gonna see this future. We're not gonna see this acceleration. And the only way you're gonna get trust in these systems is if we have the right protection in place to create trust in the users, so they feel comfortable using these systems to put their money, to access their money, and a lot more. And I think that was a big turning point for me, and that really got me excited about being in a company that was doing cyber. And mind you, at the time I was a software engineer just working on PHP and stuff at the time. And I had no vision or dreams of becoming CEO or anything like at the time, but I was just super excited about what we were doing and the new capabilities that we were building at the time from a cyber perspective. I mean, looking back now, they seem basic, but those were pretty revolutionary at the time. And what started to happen was I was so excited about what we were able to do or what we could do for our customers and really the new things that we could build, that I would then start to run into some limitations of, typically as an engineer, you have a whole structure around you. You have your product management, you have your other folks. And so I didn't necessarily have a great product manager at the time. And so I just started to get on calls with customers myself because I had that strong curiosity to learn. And I think that's one of the most important things for most people, I would say, is one of the lessons that I have learned, other than being able to grab an opportunity when you see it, is if you are excited about something, you just have to put your skin in the game and really figure out how you can make an impact in areas that may not be, traditionally under your purview or under your control. And that is the biggest thing that a leader can bring, is that they are not just following the task that they are given. They're looking at the bigger picture and trying to build consensus across different groups, even though they may not report to you, to get to a goal and a solution. And so as I started to work with the product managers, and I would myself go on calls with customers, which at that time engineers never wanted to go do that. And that really helped me understand a lot better on how the customers really view the value of the product. And this was a big lesson for me at the time, because too many times engineers are very focused on, this Jira is assigned to me and this is what I'm going to do based on the PRD that has been written by the product management team. And that's not necessarily very helpful for many, to learn and to grow, if you just keep following that and just say, this is all I can do, this is all my job is. So when I started to work with customers, I really started to understand many times we are too focused on the features of our product and don't realize that the product that we are building is there to solve a specific problem for a customer, and not the problem that we feel the customer has, but the problem that the customer actually has. And this is a big gap many times with startups and with companies that are building product, is that they are very focused on continuing to add features that they feel will be helpful, rather than these capabilities being grounded in what the problem the customer faces on a day-to-day basis and how that problem can be solved. And that was sort of my first foray into product management. And then along the way, I had some challenges with the operations team and getting my code deployed fast enough. And so I started to focus on how operations was working, even though this was, again, another team. I really got my hands into trying to understand how they are doing things, build consensus, help them do things better. And I was really fortunate at the time to have a leader and a mentor like Philippe Courteau, who was very open to, he didn't care about hierarchy, he didn't care about management layers, etc. If he saw that somebody was doing a good job, he would encourage them. And so over the many years, I took over manager job, director, VP in engineering. Then I took over product management because I felt like we could do a better job. I started to contribute, not waiting for that to be given to me. From product management, I moved into, or they added, I should say, I did not that I moved into, they added operations to me. So I really learned how cloud operations are done and how you deploy production software and how you build data centers, etc. And as our platform started to grow, we started to realize that in a SaaS environment, customers, the way they look at support is very different than in an on-prem environment. And so I ended up really learning quite a bit about how to do customer support as well. And so with customer support being something that it really helped me understand the challenges that the customer faces in using the product in a way that we think that they want to use versus how it fits in their workflow, and the way it adds cost to the company when you don't do the work upfront to really understand the use case and how customers are going to be leveraging that capability and leveraging that product. And so that was a big learning lesson. And so I ended up becoming the chief product officer, really being able to understand all aspects of the product together, all the way from coding, designing, product management, operations, even to customer support. I would go to support team every month, try to find out the top 10 cases on my product, and then be able to make an impact by going back and fixing those. And all those things help me understand about what it was to kind of build on a product that was very grounded in what customers wanted and very focused on being efficient. And that was always the hallmark of Qualys, that we always build things. And we are one of the very few cyber companies today that is public, that is actually profitable. We have a 40+% EBITDA margin, which is unheard of in this business, while growing the double digits. And so we're very proud of that. And a lot of that was foundational. And so we went, when we went public in 2012, it was very exciting at the time, because I always describe Bay Area and Silicon Valley as like Hollywood, where a lot of people come to the Bay Area, wanting to join a startup that is going to go IPO, and that's their big moment. And having been laid off twice, and many people don't actually get to that point. And so for me, I was fortunate enough to be part of a company that actually build it for 10 years, where we built a product that customers really, really wanted, that became the #1 product for those customers at the time for the use case that we had. And we built an extremely scalable product that actually made us do that in a very profitable way. And so when we went IPO, that was a big moment. And the opportunity to go IPO as an executive is always very different, because you are part of the process of writing the S1, etc. And those were very interesting experiences to have. And so sticking and just focusing on, how can I do better and better and better for my customers, got me after 10 years to that point of getting IPO, when, different people have different approaches. So many people don't stick around in the same place for a long time. But for me, that longevity really gave the opportunity to build something that was long-term rather than just contributing on short-term projects. So it really, I had the vision of building an amazing platform where multiple things can be done in one place, because I saw that cybersecurity was going to be a challenge moving forward. And then from that point on, as I continued to realize that for us to realize our vision of having a single platform approach, and again, today everybody talks about platform and cloud platform, and cloud is a fashion statement. I would say back in the day, platforms were very new concepts. And so I decided that for me to be able to scale and build out the vision that I had, I needed to have a very large access to a large pool of talent. And so I decided to open an office in Pune at the time. Really did not know what that meant, what I was doing. We ended up getting a little office on top of a garage in Pune. And from that point on, we continued to expand. Today, we are 1,300 plus people in Pune, and we continue to expand that capability by adding a lot of talent, which then ended up helping us build many, many, many additional capabilities on the platform. And today, if you look at what has happened in the last 10 years or so, or 15 years, everybody is competing with each other. Every company is competing with each other on the digital experience. Banks today are advertising that you can open a bank account by looking at the selfie or taking a selfie of yourself on a cell phone. And this is phenomenal, right? And it's all driven by digital technology. If you look today at technologies like Aadhaar and technologies, similar technologies being used in countries like Brazil, and the UPI payment system, that has led to upliftment of a lot of people who are financially not part of the digital journey. And so innovation in IT has led to the ability for a person who's selling coconut on the street without any electricity to accept an electronic payment. And that's phenomenal, right? And all of that is driven by digital technology. So these people today can make a lot more money than they did in the past when they were dealing with cash. And that just creates millions and millions of people are today being uplifted out of economic exclusion or financial exclusion. And the fundamental to that is cybersecurity, because without that confidence in those systems, without cybersecurity, I think we would never be able to get to where we are, and we will actually go back if we start to have these issues with from a protection of the IT systems perspective. And so extremely happy over the last few years what we have been able to achieve. And our stock, when we started, we listed I think at $12. We ended up at going up to 140 or so dollars, and so we created phenomenal value for our shareholders. And in 2021, I got the I should say 2020 actually. So I got the opportunity in 2021 to, and in unfortunate circumstances, our founder CEO Philippe, he had to step back because of medical reasons. And so again, it wasn't something that I had planned or had a plan to say in 1 year or 2 years I wanted to become CEO, but because of what I had done for the company without any expectations of a certain title or anything like that, when the opportunity came, the board was kind enough to pick me as the CEO and give me the opportunity to build, continue to build the vision of the company and continue to build the company. And so I took that, and we have really focused on making cyber much more efficient and cheaper. And because it is so fundamental to our lives on a day-to-day basis, today you cannot go through your day without using a product that is secured by Qualys. If you're using any of the big cloud providers, if you're using any of the big phone manufacturers, many of the companies that you bank with, today Qualys secures almost all the key companies out there. And so we are very proud of what we have been able to build with a singular focus. And so as I finished 20 years in the same company, and it's been interesting to go all the way from a software engineer to the CEO within a 20-year lifespan. And so that's a different entrepreneurial journey, of course, than what some of you have seen or have gone through. And I think that really brings up a lot of lessons in how can you grow yourself, how can you think long term, how can you execute long term by being at some place for long term, and also be able to create significant value for your shareholders by building something that is profitable, and that's something that can actually continue to survive for a long term, versus some companies that grow significantly by just acquiring other companies, or some companies that grow very quick, just enough to be able to get sold and to realize equity fairly quickly. And so I think that's sort of summarizes my journey. I came from the product background, so it was a steep learning curve in the early days on understanding what the CEO role is. And I think CEO role really is two things, in my opinion. One is having a vision, and the second is finding the right people who are actually going to be able to execute on that vision. And these people have to be better than you in all forms, so that they can do and execute on that vision better than you would have. And so being able to hire somebody who is a great finance leader, a great HR leader, a great marketing leader, so that they can take the vision and execute on those in ways that you wouldn't have thought about, I think is the most important part. And all of that has to be done by building a solid culture. I think a lot of CEOs who come on the show, I'm sure, talk about how important it is to create a culture in the company where employees are excited about the contribution that they are making. So it's not about, whether we are a family or not family or something. Are you creating an amazing workplace where people love to come and contribute and do things that make them satisfied and happy at the end of the day? I think that's really key and phenomenon. That's a really key phenomenon that is important that you create in the company, in my opinion, if you want to create a company that survives for long and where people stay here for a very long period of time. And I think I'm proud of having learned those lessons and having built that. And of course, I don't know where we go from here. I want to say another 20 years, but that might be too long given where I am right now in life. So Naveen, I don't know, I kind of breezed through and maybe took a little bit longer than I should have, but hopefully that gave a good overview of my journey. And I'm not a big preacher, so I kind of talked a little bit about the lessons that I have learned. I think everybody learns different lessons, and I don't think that what I do know is that I always say this, that when you are on a peak and you want to go to the next peak, anybody who's mountain climbing, that you have to go through a valley. And so I think every day is about understanding the challenges that are in front of you and looking at how to solve those challenges. And the reason I tell people that don't be very rigid about this is what I want to become or do is because when you are doing that, you close your mind to other potential opportunities, because many times you realize that you might actually be a lot better at some of those rather than what you have decided in your mind that's exactly what you want to do. Many times that doesn't end up working out, or you don't end up being happy when you are there. And a lot of people say, they talk about success, and see, in my opinion, success is a social construct, because people say you're successful because you have a title or you have money or whatever it is. That I don't see that as success. To me, success is how much impact have you had in the community and the world that you live in, and the more impact that you've had, a positive impact, I should say, that to me is success. And many times when I was a software engineer, I felt a lot more successful at times than as a CEO, and then there are times when as a CEO you feel very successful compared to when you're a software engineer. And so I think it's important that people don't tie success to fame or money or title or something like that. It's like, are you really doing something that you enjoy, and what you're doing, are you doing that actually has a much more wider impact than just on yourself? So I'll stop there, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sumedh. Really, really very excited. I mean, very amazing and insightful. And obviously these stories are always inspiring. That's why I enjoy so much this my story when we started. So, almost 11 years ago in 2011 at that time. And so one of the questions I start off with by asking before we go to the audience is, which you kind of answered anyway. So I won't put you on spot, so please don't worry. So when you're, if you reflect upon like as a, child, when you're growing up, is there anything which you think now go back and just think some dots? I always call it like connecting dots as in your life. when you go through your personal, professional, entrepreneurial journey, you think if you look back that there was something which would have made you think, yeah, maybe there was something that, subconsciously that I would end up running a publicly held company, or, start from an engineer, and kind of you went through a lot of, obviously transformation in yourself also.
Sure. Yeah, I can tell you for sure that none of my teachers would have said that I will end up running a public company. I think I barely made the passing marks most of the time. And so, I think, like I said, when I look back and reflect back, I think one of the most important things that I learned today, that as a leader, one of the most important things that you can have is people skills. And a lot of things that happen in childhood shape that. And I think growing up in India, and my mom was somebody who was very, very, particular about how we talk to people, about how we are helpful to people. If somebody had any issues, medical, this, that, my mom was always the first one to be there. And at that time you find that annoying, and you find that, oh, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to go there? But that selflessness that she had, when I reflect back, I think that truly brought about that social side of me in really connecting with people and trying to understand, really what is it that drives and motivates people, and boiling it down to the simplicity. So, many times, even if somebody's angry, you need to learn to look beyond that anger to find out what is it really that is bothering them. And I think that was one of the big things that I really learned from my mom. And my dad was always somebody who was extremely quiet and very focused, and he only spoke few words. And so I had this contrast of, like, my mom was very social, and my dad was always very measured in what he said, but he said the most important things at the right time. And again, at that time, you don't see that. But I think a lot of these things, when you reflect back, they really shape you as a leader. So of course, at that time, I didn't know that, I was going to end up running a public company or anything like that. But I think those lessons were really important. And I think big part of that was failing. To succeed, you have to fail, right? Everybody says that, but you have to build a muscle for that, right? Like any muscle memory that you have, right? If you have failed enough number of times, only then you are going to be able to succeed. Because in your first failure, if you give up, then that's it, you're done, right? And so I think through the period that I learned from childhood is, whenever I got bad scores, bad marks, whatever it is, there were failures, but the ability to look past those failures and to pick yourself up and go forward, I think that probably was another really important thing for me in life. Is many times we agonize over losing a job or losing something, and so losing those two jobs actually was the best thing that happened to me to get here, or the fact that I didn't take Yahoo. And so I think we always have to take negative things that happen with a grain of salt and look at the positive things that can come from that.
Thank you, Sumedh. That's what I was thinking. Like, those are very good attributes, when you look back for a leader, just be empathetic, being able to listen at the same time, like you said, say something in a very measured way. I think the contrast from both of your parents you learned. Awesome. So first question is from Randy Barr. I'm sure you know him, Randy. Obviously,
Hi, Randy.
yeah. So Randy has been obviously an esteemed customer and advisor to us also. But Randy says, Sumedh, congratulations on your journey. If you had the opportunity to meet yourself 20 years ago, what one business advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, I think 20 years ago, I was a quintessential engineer with my head in my code and didn't really look at anything outside my purview. And, like a typical engineer, you grow up thinking, wow, I have designed this amazing code. I don't understand why the sales team cannot sell it. And I think if going back 20 years, I would have advised myself to spend more time really learning the art of selling and marketing. I think that was something that I took quite a while, even though I was focused on the product capabilities, took a while for me to really understand how challenging, important, difficult and important the whole understanding of not just the amazing products that you build, but positioning them to solve a problem for a customer and doing it in the wallet size that they have, how important that is. So I think 20 years ago, that's what I would have accelerated that knowledge process a few years than it took for me when I was so busy focusing only on my code.
Thank you. Next question is from Abhishek Singh. Abhishek, his question is, Abhishek, I believe this is the same Abhishek, our customer and founder of Harari Network. I got a lot of these customers. I guess they must really love us. So anyway, Abhishek's question is, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I don't know where I see myself 10 years from now, because again, I don't have a specific plan that limits myself, or because I always think of a long-term plan can be limiting. So I want to continue to take the opportunities that come my way in moving forward. I think I really enjoy what I do at Qualys and the impact that I'm able to have. And, when we're proudly able to say that, today, you cannot go through your day without using a product that is secured by Qualys. I think that's a big impact that I have had. And, as long as I continue to have that impact, and, I think it's kind of weird to talk about my legacy, so to say, but I think it's really, for me, I want to, which I think we've already achieved, but I want to leave that Qualys was that company, or is that company, that has really changed the way this area of cyber and risk management was done. And we continue to be disruptors in the field. And, when we added patch management as a capability with vulnerability management, everybody was like, whoa, nobody does that. And today, 200 million patches deployed by Qualys. Nobody can say we're not a patch management company in a way. And so I want to continue to disrupt in wherever I can to bring more efficiency and change the way that people do things. And I think that's really, for me, my legacy. The way I look at that is we created something, I led something that really changed the way, a big part of the world, and impacted a lot of people, and secured a lot of enterprises from cyber attacks.
And so next question, I'll come back to Randy. Randy has another question, but next question is from Hemant Mantri. How often do companies deviate from their planned roadmap to accommodate demanding, usually high-paying customer needs? Number one, and how do you balance the customer asks versus your intended roadmap?
This is a fantastic question, right? And as a product leader, I dealt with this a lot all the time, and I think it's a somewhere answer is somewhere in between, because what I have seen is that um, whenever a customer is asking for something that is not on your roadmap, for the most part, what I have seen is that it is because that customer is seeing something that is a lot more forward looking, that you are not able to see right now and other customers not able to see right now. And so many times I always approach that as, well, why would they want us to do that? Every customer also knows that this is a core competency of the company. Why would they want us to do something different? And because then they have a use case, right? Nobody wants to do that because they want to waste your time. They have a use case and they feel like your platform can actually help them with some changes achieve that use case. And so every time that has happened, I would say 99% of the time that it turns out to be a very interesting capability that is forward looking, that nobody else has thought about. And if you can accommodate that as a part of a roadmap, then you are actually leading it, because other customers will get there and they will see that later. Now, of course, there's a few percentage of the time when you got to bring the deal into the quarter, and so you got to do something that moves the roadmap around, and that's a constant prioritization conversation that's going to happen, because that deal this quarter is going to fund the new things that you want to do next quarter, right? So I think that is some of that, but obviously you want to be limiting any at least in a SaaS environment as an example, right? You want to be limiting any custom things that you do, because that just adds technical debt, which then ends up becoming a big problem. And so I have been fortunate, because of the approach I have taken, to always find that most of these asks are something that actually end up creating some innovation for rest of the customers as well.
Thank you, Sumedh. So next question is from Atul Tiwari. Atul, thank you for sharing your story, Sumedh. I hadn't heard it from you in the past. I'm sure you probably know Atul. Atul is VP of M&A at Barracuda. Yes. So what is next for Qualys and for you?
Yeah, Qualys, we are very excited about the roadmap that we have. I think if you look at the last couple of years where we have pivoted, when being a detection only solution into really helping customers fix their problems. Because look, if you look at what's happening in the industry right now, right, the last 15 years, every company has become a software company. Companies that were not in the business of writing software have become a software company. Every government has become a software enterprise now. So people have been writing so much software in the last 10 or so years. So you have trillions and trillions of lines of more code that has been written in the last few years. And having been a developer, I can tell you statistically, that means that there are many vulnerabilities in those code. Every 100 lines of code has a few vulnerabilities that have not come out, right? Now, the thing with vulnerabilities is that if nobody knows about it, you're fine, right? As long as the bad guys don't know, good guys don't know, we're fine. The problem only becomes when the bad guys, try to find out. And so we are entering an environment where risks are increasing significantly because there's more infrastructure and more code, and we don't have enough people. And that means that the only solution to that is automation. And today there is a fear of bringing automation in cybersecurity because of the fear of breaking things, etc. And I see that as the next frontier. And so if you look at a couple of years ago, we introduced the ability for Qualys to be able to patch systems, not just report on all the issues you have. And today we have customers that are deploying millions of patches proactively to protect themselves from attacks. So we have a customer who updates their Chrome within 4 hours of exploitable vulnerability coming out, completely automated for 400,000 employees. 400,000 laptops get updated within 4 hours, and they are protected in the best possible way because their maximum exposure is 4 hours. Because they use automation, they use remediation. And to me, I think more and more we are going to see the need for remediation, automation and remediation. And so I think as we are continuing to develop more capabilities in that space and becoming a more holistic platform that is not only detecting assets, finding vulnerabilities, prioritizing them based on threat intelligence, but also fixing them. And we're doing the same in cloud now, because that's another frontier. And so again, cloud is not the only thing people are not cloud only. They always have a combination of different types of devices. And so we see the opportunity to continue to innovate as a platform that's disrupting in risk management and helping customers really focus on risk rather than vulnerabilities, and helping them manage that risk by also fixing it, not just reporting on it.
Very good. So next question is from Bhargava Ram. Please share your experience about how hard was it to carry someone's vision by becoming a CEO. How were you able to prepare yourself for the role?
Didn't really have, you can never be prepared for that role is one thing I can definitely tell you. I think the good thing was that in the way that Qualys was structured, Philippe was he was the visionary. He was focused on product and marketing and sales. And I really was sort of the technical visionary in building the platform and the capabilities for many years. And so the good part was I had a very good understanding of the business from the standpoint of what the product did, where the product fit, what the customers used it for. I think getting and jumping into and understanding the investor side of the house, understanding the sort of the finance side of the house, sales, marketing, some of that took a couple quarters to really sort of absorb it and be able to start to have an impact. And a lot of people say that being a CEO is a very lonely job, and I think that's a very accurate statement that never realized till you get to that point, because everybody is looking at you to provide guidance, to make decisions and stuff like that. And so you have nobody else to vet sort of your decisions by. You really have to make the best decision that you can, and you bear the full responsibility of that decision that you make. And I think that is something that nobody prepares you for. And I think, but just like with anything else in life, when you fall into the water, you're going to figure out how to swim. And then it's all about how quickly can you swim and how fast can you swim. That's going to make the difference between whether you become a good leader or you sink, right? If you can't swim in that environment. And so I think I would say is, I learned a lot on the job, so to say, because I think till you actually take the role, nobody can prepare you for that role. It is my really sincere experience in this, is that nothing that anybody ever told me prepared me for what that role brings about, especially as a public company.
Very good. See, that's why we wanted to make sure you didn't feel lonely for 1 hour today. So next question is from Abhishek Karnik. Says, given that you're an engineer at heart, how did you build your business skills or other skills necessary for being a CEO of such a large company? Any tips for us?
Yeah, I think, like I said, being an engineer is a great asset, because you know how to engineer things, and you know that going from in zero code to writing a code has multiple steps in visualizing what you want to build, breaking it up into different pieces, and then going step by step, and then testing your theory, and then going back and fixing it, and then actually implementing it, the final product. And I think a lot of that really is very similar in the way that you think of doing your business. Is you have to come up with your business plan, you have to have your theory, you have to start implementing it in pieces, and then you have to be able to go back and validate if your assumptions are true, you're getting the results that you're looking for. If not, you got to go back and tweak some of that. And so I think I really learned the part of from engineering to product management. I think more than the engineering part, I think the product management part really helped me in a big way to understand what is the difference between just adding features and adding the one capability that really helps solve a customer pain point, because that is the driving factor where customers pay money for, right? To build a business, it's not whether your technology is cool or whether it's using some latest technology or eBPF or this or that. At the end of the day, customer doesn't care, right? What problem do you solve for them is the most important thing. And so, of course, if you can do that by using some really new technology, that's great. If you can do that by just using very simple technology. And so in many ways, if you look at the problems that Qualys solve for the largest companies in the world, are the basics of vulnerability and patch management. This is not something super sexy, so to say, that people think about, but it is so important. And our innovation in that space is not about machine learning, AI. Of course, we have those capabilities, but it is about how can I really quickly help you fix the biggest problem that you have, is your exposure window to vulnerabilities, right? And so I think as an engineer, I definitely recommend people really get into product management if you really want to go into, building out your own company, learning product management skill, learning pricing, learning, how do you place your product is very important. Otherwise, what happens is a lot of people have a cool idea of a cool technology they want to use, and then you end up building one small piece of it, and then customer cannot actually get a solution by using your one piece. Then they have to go do many things, and then that's where you end up fizzling as a one feature company rather than building a platform, and ultimately everybody's looking for bigger solutions. And so that really comes from, I think, learning product management, I would say, is a key aspect in my opinion if you want to go from engineer to becoming a business leader.
Thank you, Sumedh. Sumedh, it's already 7, but there are a number of questions. Do you have 5-10 minutes extra you want to?
I could do 5 more minutes, no problem.
Okay, sure. Okay, next question is from Santanu Sharma. Any changes in InfoSec entrepreneurship that you foresee will be imminent because of generative ML in coming years?
I think, ML, AI, ChatGPT, all these things are there. And I think those are just tools to me, and advanced tools in some ways in solving challenges. I think where I see the value of ML and AI in this space in InfoSec is, InfoSec needs you to crunch through huge amounts of data to find patterns and to find things that are most important, right? Like today, if you have trillions of lines of code and millions of vulnerabilities, how do you really find the ones that are the most important that cause risk to the organization? And today, companies do that by collecting a lot of data, using Elasticsearch and analyzing and writing algorithms. And if you look at SIMs, how SIMs you have to write so many rules in these SIMs so that you can detect patterns. But the opportunity for us to leverage technologies like machine learning, AI, etc., as part of your overall platform is that can really speed up crunching large amounts of data without having to give rules that you already know. And so these kind of technologies will make it better in cybersecurity, specifically in InfoSec, in detecting unknown things that you don't already have a rule for. And I think that's going to be very important as we move forward. And so I think it's inevitable, like just the way you're going to have ML and AI be used in many other areas of IT and other areas. I think InfoSec will definitely benefit from those capabilities. But again, you have to remember not to over-rotate on the technology itself. Remember that it's there to solve a problem. So as long as that technology can actually help you in the process of solving a problem, that is something that I definitely would recommend everybody look at.
Yeah, no, great. So next one is a good question because it's not focused on IT, on security or anything.
Okay.
It's just, how do you stay focused from Vida? How do you stay focused as a CEO on a daily basis? What are your sleep, food, and fitness routines?
I think I would say that my family will agree, will probably not agree with me on my fitness levels and how much I need to do. But I think the thing that I always tell people is that the CEO role did not come with extra hours in the day. Right. So my day has the exact same 24 hours as everybody else's day has. And so I think at the end of the day, it is all about being good at prioritizing what you need to focus on a daily basis. Right. And I think for me, that's what I really focus on is, okay, what are the key things I can make an impact on today? What are the key things that I need to focus on today and that I need to make sure that we are taking care of so that our tomorrow is in a good place. And so given that you only have those 24 hours and you need good sleep and you need good hobbies, and I have, I ride motorcycles at times, and I do other things that really help me clear my mind. I don't have some, a meditation routine or any mantra or anything like that I do. I just try to really spend time with my friends and my family as much as I can, because it takes your mind away. And I think being, whether it's meditation or riding a motorcycle or anything else, anything that takes your mind away from what you are constantly thinking about, I think is a great relaxation. And so sometimes, even though you are running, it's physically taxing on your body. Mentally, if you are able to not have 100 things going on in your mind, it relaxes your mind. And I think that is what I try to focus on, is finding things that I can do in the evenings and on the weekend. Sometimes I cook, just I like cooking. And so then you get singularly focused on that, and that relaxes your mind for those hours, and it gets you ready for having a fresh perspective. A lot of times when we're stressed, we cannot stop thinking about that one thing, and that is never helpful, because if you constantly keep thinking of that, you never get out of that. And stress is a factor of how you react to something, and it is not the issue itself. It's so if you can get yourself to train yourself to say, yes, it is problematic, it's challenging, but I know I will find the solution. And if I can think through, it's a hard thing to do, but I acquired that in the last few years, where you really start to train yourself to say, yes, I don't know the answer to this, and that's okay. I will work out and figuring out the answer. And sometimes just giving yourself time and space, because stress is a worry of the future. And so what happens is that you always worry about all these bad things that can happen. And most of the time they don't end up happening, and you just end up stressing yourself for hours because you're thinking of the bad thing. But like with anything else, the outcome could be good, but our mind always focuses on the bad things that could happen, right? Good thing could happen or bad thing could happen, but we never think of the good thing. And so if you can train yourself more to focus on that, I think that's a difficult thing to do, and I don't think I've done it fully 100%, but I think that's one way that I use to just keep my mind clear and know that there's 24 hours in my day like everybody else.
Yeah. Especially in the market you are in, security, you're always thinking of what can happen, right?
But it's like it's always happening, so it's not like so that something's gonna happen all the time. It always happens. So
yeah. So there are three people. I know there are a number of questions, but three people who haven't asked. Is that okay with you? If I ask, I know you have to.
Yeah, sure. I think we can do 5 more minutes.
So one from Gautam. What is the most important skill for any new early, the who are just starting their career today's time, according to you? What is the most important skill in today's time you can advise someone?
I think curiosity is probably the most important thing, and doing something about that curiosity, right? So wanting to know everything and not just what you are doing is really helpful, because to be a good leader, to be an entrepreneur in the future, you need an all-rounded perspective on things, so that you don't end up being unsuccessful because you never thought of certain things. And so in my experience, when I was an engineer, even though I was an engineer, I was very curious about what product management does, what marketing does, what other teams are doing, and I would always go and interact with them, and to the point of annoying them sometimes, right? But I think if you just focus on, I've been given this and that's all I'm going to do, you don't grow and you learn. You have to be very curious, and then you have to do something about that curiosity by going out and talking to people and getting information. I think the more information you can absorb and the more experiences you get, and I would say the more you fail, the more you're going to learn to be successful better by going through more failures.
Okay. So the next is from Prakash. The question, sorry, 1 second, I have to go up this. Hold on. Yeah, so the question is, I'm trying to move it down. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah. So the Prakash's question is, congratulations on your success. Oh, well, Prakash also asked about your work-life balance, unless you want to elaborate on that. That's let me ask from Amaya. What is your favorite newcomer in the tech industry who has made it big?
Yeah, I think the tech industry, I really like companies that change things fundamentally, right? Like if you look at Uber as an example, right?
Yeah.
You look at Stripe, right? So I think I like new companies' ideas, but unless they are actually able to show that they can sustain for a few years, and because we have all been through Webvan and few technologies that were cool technologies that didn't end up really making anything. And so I really like things that are changing payments and simplifying payment industry. That's just an area where I feel like the more simplified we can make the payment process, the more business that we can do seamlessly, the better it is going to be for the rest of the world. So I'm a lot more excited about that kind of. So I always like fintech startups that are coming, etc. But as always, there are companies that are trying to take, as an example, money management that today is restricted to the top 1% and create algorithms that can actually bring it to people where they can have money management strategies and investment strategies and access to information so that they can do a better job at investing. Those are always a lot more exciting for me, and that's just an area of passion about if they're going to make it big or not. That we've seen companies that go all the way up in year 2 and then all the way down in year 3. So I'll wait to see which of these actually end up succeeding. But every failure teaches us that there's room for a certain technology, and somebody else absorbs that and builds something better from there. So I think the most important thing is we continue to have innovation.
Thank you. So the second last question from Ravi Amle. They're a digital health company actualizing holistic diagnostic level telehealth networks focused on long-term care. So he says, can you provide a snapshot of the challenges you might have faced with the development and support, and would like to understand how effectively you support hybrid BYO, bring your own device environments?
I mean, I think BYOD is really the reality of today that you have to deal with. And so I assume that the question is from a security perspective, right? And I think what we focus a lot on installing antivirus on each of our devices, doing vulnerability management and EDR and all of that on the devices, right? And the reality is that the devices are not what we care about. The device getting compromised itself doesn't mean anything. It's more that the device is a path to something that is critical to you. And what many companies don't do a great job at is identifying what data is very critical. Attackers are only after data. They're not after your systems. They don't care about your systems, your laptops, or anything like that. So even if you have a BYOD environment or cloud environment, people are always worried about the scale and stuff like that. I think if people can do a better job at focusing and identifying the most important data, and then from there on working on protecting and finding ways that you can protect that, it's a much simpler problem than trying to go after 10 million things when some of them may be able to get to your data, right? And I think that's why you look at DSPM and some of these technologies are becoming more and more important and relevant today, because the end of the day, what you're trying to protect is the data, not the device itself. And so anybody bringing a device that has a virus really should not be an issue if you find a way to ensure that your data is protected and you have the right layers in front of it.
Very good. So the last question I asked Sumedh is, I know it's already late. So for any entrepreneurs in the audience, there are still a number of them there. If they have to start a cybersecurity or security company, because there are so many of them already, and I'm sure you get bombarded with a lot of them right now trying to be rescued.
Yeah.
So what would you advise them? What would be you say, hey, let's say you're outside, you said, I want to start a cybersecurity company. So any idea, opportunity for them that they can embark upon?
Yeah, look, I think I will say that don't start a cybersecurity company unless you have a holistic view of the challenge that a CISO is facing, right? And the CISO is not going to tell you about eBPF or this or that. The CISO is going to tell you, I have this much budget and I somehow need to manage risk in my environment to that budget. That's the reality of anything. It doesn't matter whether you go with ML or AI or whatever it is, right? So the biggest opportunity for innovation today, I think, in cyber is finding ways to show enterprises that they can measure and manage their risk within a given expense envelope. That's all it is at the end of the day, right? And so if you can find technology that they can do that security and they can do it for cheaper and faster and better, that is really the area that is a win. And now that could come from different new technologies that you can use. But today there are 50 plus security solutions on an average that any CISO is buying, any cyber company is buying, and they're just struggling to trying to make those work with each other, and they don't really work. And so you end up replacing one point solution with another point solution. And so anything that is a short-term solution for one little thing, I think that it's always a good starting point, but unless you have a vision to help a customer in security really solve the problem efficiently in a certain expense envelope, I think it's just that you're just going to be replaced by somebody else who will do that one feature in a little bit cheaper way.
Okay, thank you, Sumedh. That the very good insights and lots of great lessons for all of us. And really appreciate your time sitting there outside in the cold on Foster City on top of the building.
Yeah, this is supposed to be sunny California. I was happening here. So Naveen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on board, and you know, I'm really honored to be in this forum, and look forward to any further interactions that we will continue to have.
No, absolutely. And really, as I had mentioned first time when I met you, that you have a very unique story, and really appreciate your coming here today. And with that, all of you, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming and join us for next events. And obviously, you'll find out about it. So thank you, Sumedh, again. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.